day 2 of MySQL. Let's see, what day is today? Thursday, right? I don't even know what day it is. Welcome to COVID. Today?
Tuesday.
It's Tuesday. Oh my gosh. Oh,
Tuesday.
they're all the same. Okay, so Tuesday. So day 2 of MySQL. So has anybody ever heard of the acronym? It's kind of funny sounding if you don't know what it means, but it's called CRUD. Any show of hands? You know what CRUD is? I mean, everybody knows what CRUD is, but in the context of working with databases. Oh, I heard somebody, but I didn't hear you well.
I think you talked about it. You mentioned it before.
Well, that's cheating. Yeah, that's right. I think I've mentioned it maybe once or twice in passing. But can anybody tell me what it means?
I know the first one's create, right?
Yep. And don't feel bad if you have to remember. I kind of forget.
Like create,
like
read.
Repeat, read.
Yeah, read, update, and the D is
destroy.
Deploy.
Oh wow! Well, my good. You know what? You've been watching way too much Doctor Who. No, just delete. So similar idea. Although you will find that if you learn PHP at any point in your life, destroy actually is a keyword. And it's like there are a few different ones that you can use in its place, but that's always the one I use because it's a lot more fun. Yeah, create, read, update, and delete. Has actually. It's similar. If you ever hear this term, like you're developing a RESTful application, it's like REST is like another acronym for basically the same thing. Like, I actually can't remember the acronym REST, but anyway, CRUD is the one that means create, read, update, delete, and that's very frequently referenced as a little mnemonic tool. Pneumatic tool. Wait, what's the tool whenever you use words to remind you of something?
Mnemonic,
right? Okay, so
Yeah.
pneumatic means that something's powered with air, like air
Right.
compressor. Okay, I'm glad I didn't say that the first time. Yeah, mnemonic tool to remind you basically what you can do with a database, and that's pretty much it. You can create new entries, you can read them, you can update them, and you can delete them. Pretty simple, right? So that's what we're going to be doing today, because so far we've basically just been reading it, right? We've been building databases. We've been messing with the databases a little bit directly into our workbench, and then we've been able to build a little. Actually, no, we haven't built any. No, we haven't built any code that actually reads it yet, have we? Okay, good. Well, today is going to be a very new thing. So on Saturday, you learned how to write code directly and work directly with the database, which is one skill, and that's very useful. And honestly, I frequently use it at least a couple times a week. You're going to learn how to write server code now that will do that job for you, that will actually interact with the database and interact with its sort of like the CRUD, creating, updating, deleting, etc. So let's take a stab at our first exercise. You know what? I think we'll just do this one together. I think it's better than starting cold. So I'm going to share my screen. Can everybody see some code, the code editor up there? Okay, cool. Thank you. Now let's actually, everybody, let's go together. Let's do this together, step by step. So first, go ahead and navigate in your repo over to 06 ice cream with connection, if you will. And you should see this. Right. But before we get cooking on this, let's open up Workbench. I'll give you a second for that.
Which activity is it, Peter?
06, something about ice cream, like ice cream database connection. ice cream DB connection.js. It's in the folder 06 ice cream. Yeah, ice cream with connection. So open up that file. So we're gonna review it together. But to make it work, we'll need to open up. You don't have to type this. I put it there for myself. All right, now once we have Workbench open, let's go ahead and go up here to File. And I'm gonna move kind of slowly. I'm gonna give you an instruction. I'm just gonna like sit here and I'll be kind of quiet for like a bit, just to let everybody catch up who might have fallen behind or whoever Workbench isn't starting up.
Peter, we
Go
need
ahead.
ice cream seeds open, just a new database.
Is that the SQL file?
Yeah.
Not in VS Code. We're about to open it in Workbench though, actually. So speaking of which, Dylan brought up our next step. It's go up to here to File in your upper left-hand corner of Workbench. Click File, click Run SQL or Run SQL script. So that's File, Run SQL script. I'm going to go ahead and click that. And then you'll just want to navigate here to your Finder or whatever, over to your, into your repo. Okay, into the file that we have open in VS Code. So it's 06 ice cream with connection. And then we're going to see a SQL file there. So go ahead and open that SQL file. It's going to pop you up a mirror window that just asks you some stuff, but you can just hit run. And you should see a little message that says operation completed successfully. We did this on Saturday, so you're probably not unfamiliar with it. So I'm going to go ahead and close this window. And what has happened, you probably, although if you were, I wouldn't expect anybody to notice, but I already had it here. But you should not have had it here, and now you should. Now that we ran that script, it should have added ice cream DB to your database, or it should have built the database actually. So let's go ahead and just browse this database real quick. Go ahead and type in these commands. So actually, let's open these tabs here. So if you open it and you look at tables, we have a table called products, right? So we want to use the ice cream DB. So type in all caps use, because that's how we do SQL. And then the name ice cream DB. And then, because this allows us to view it in Workbench, select star from, and then we'll say products, which is the name of the only table in this database. So we want to see the whole table. And then you can just hit the lightning bolt.
Hey, Peter.
Sure.
Zerka, I'm on a Mac and the ice cream seeds file is not opening up, or I don't see it on this node.
You know what? Just FYI, I can barely hear you, but it sounds like that you don't see the file in your repo.
Correct.
Well, that's funny. Are you in 06, or did you navigate to?
Did you pull the repo?
Yeah, I have that open. Like I see the ice cream seeds file in like the main window, but it's not showing up on the left-hand side.
Refresh.
I have an unconnected tab on the very top where it says local instance, MySQL. Mine says unconnected and I can't see it in there either.
Oh, okay. So it may not connect on whenever you open it. Let's see if I can recall
The
correctly.
right side of the toolbar, there's like a little, looks like a coin stack or something like that. Click on that, and then it's going to have you put your password in. Probably.
The
Gotta
reconnect
reconnect it.
to
Yeah.
DBS, whatever.
Yeah, is everything green on the bar below that, or gray? I mean, like all the icons are
everything's
grayed
grayed out.
Yeah, so click on that.
Yeah, I can't find that.
Is it good?
No, I'll try to figure it out.
How's it looking, Dylan?
That seemed to work for me. It still says unconnected at the very top tab next to the home, but I have access to all the like I can execute now.
Okay, throw in this code and see if it works. I don't want to leave you in the dust, so we'll give it a sec.
Should it match the ice cream DB from the seeds?
Well, if you ran the seeds file, it would just build a DB, a database called ice cream DB. So it shouldn't say seeds anywhere, actually. Does it?
I
does it
ran
work?
that first and then ran the new code in the new file and it worked.
Okay, so it's okay, cool, good. And then you should be able to see, you know, vanilla, chocolate, strawberry. Okay, awesome. So we're all on the same page. Cool. Okay, so that means you built the data.
My
Okay.
workbench is crashing when I try to connect to it.
Oh, that's bad. It's straight up crashing, huh? Do you have any like updates or anything running? You know, there's a lot of CPU running.
It doesn't look like it.
So Workbrace is just crashing. So that might be an odd. Let me see. For anybody who's having, let me see by a show of hands, we might have a number of folks having problems with their Workbench software. Okay, like a lot. Okay, so you're not alone. So that's good. That's encouraging. And it's discouraging because it's not working. So, Brian, Steph, do we want to do a little troubleshooting? We have I think at least 5 students having just basically software trouble with Workbench.
Let me double check. Which port is it on the host name?
3306 typically.
Okay.
Is your SQL Server running?
I was gonna say I had a problem this weekend when I was kind of practicing with it, and after we did it, I left it up. I had to go in and close Workbench all the way, stop MySQL Server, then go back in, start MySQL Server, then relaunch Workbench, and I started getting to work again. So if anybody wants to try that was some troubleshooting I did this weekend because I was having kind of that same problem that everyone was having.
Never mind. I just closed the entire thing, ended every sort of process related to SQL from the task manager, restarted the whole thing, cleared the stored password, re-entered my password, and now it's running.
You
Dennis,
did what Dennis did. Go ahead,
Dennis,
David.
did it say unconnected? Mine says unconnected, and next to it is a local instance that I was working on Saturday. But
Yes.
then new ice cream says unconnected. So just
Yeah, that's what happened to me, and then that's when I went in and did all of that, and then I went back and did it, and it started working. I
so
can't
you
tell you
just
why.
close the app
Working.
and restart it.
Yeah,
Did you-
close the app, and then I went in and I physically stopped my SQL Server.
How do
then
you
restarted my SQL
install the
Server.
SQL Server?
Well,
Does it start yourself?
it's different for everybody, but on my Mac, I go into actually in the system preferences and start and stop it there.
Oh, God.
Yeah,
Thanks, let me try.
Dennis is totally right. But it seems like the most popular way to start the SQL Server so far in this class is through the Workbench. Although I usually just do what you have from the command line, but that might be a peculiarity of me, and I think probably the Workbench way is easier. I think I'm probably just going to try to get myself in the habit of doing it your guys' way, and so we're all on the same page. Okay, so but we're still having, some people are still having software issues, right? Show of hands real quick to see if yeah, so we still have a few.
Mine didn't go away that I'm connected. Can I also get somewhere in
So
breakout?
that's at least 4. Okay, Steph, could you create some breakout rooms? We're actually going to need group rooms later anyway for our final exercise. So I don't know if you want to take a minute and just build out the rooms. And since this is not like a huge exercise, maybe we can, if you want to stick people in the same room, or if you want to randomize them, that's fine too. But
Hey, Peter.
oh, sure.
Quick question. So I have all my repos within like a dev folder, and I normally navigate to them for class via the terminal. So how do I go about doing that with like MySQL? Because I clicked the run, MySQL script thing, and and then you said to navigate to the repo, but it's like not on my desktop or anything like that.
You know what? I think I misunderstood. So you ran MySQL script in Workbench and it created the database, right? So you can see it like here where I'm moving my arrow. You see it over there.
No, I didn't
Did you?
didn't get that far.
Okay. That's where you ought to be right now. So you want, oh wait, but were you having problems running Workbench?
Yeah, so I go to file and then do the run SQL script, and then a pop-up asks me like navigate to your desktop or your downloads or what, because I assume you have to, that's where you go to find the repo.
Yeah.
But all of my stuff for this class is, I think, what is it, like the little tilde, it's dev. It's not on the desktop. Like I
Oh.
navigate to it through the terminal every single time.
Oh,
I didn't save it to my desktop at all.
No, you can actually you can find it. You run a Mac or a PC.
Mac.
So through your I think it's called the Explorer. Just like your little window guy on it's called File Explorer on Windows, but it's this. Just one of these. So if you look at your code here, for example, on mine shows the whole file path. So it says PS and then C:, which is like the C drive, and users, owner, desktop, UCSD, full stack, 01, class count, blah, 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 blah. So, but it actually shows the location. What does yours say there?
Little tilde /dev /new UCSD /UCSD.
Do you know where that dev folder is?
No. I think it's kind of like where the
Probably under
like the home.
users.
Yeah,
You know what?
it's something like that. Like it's.
I think you can do this on Mac, but if you go up, if you open that, like if you have the JS file open in your VS Code, if you right click on it, there should be an option that says on mine it says reveal in File Explorer, because that's what that little window is called in PCs, but I think it's called the Navigator in Macs. So it might say reveal in Navigator. If you click on that, it'll open a window, or it should.
Oh, cool.
Oh, got it?
Yeah, I just don't know how I would get that, because it's like Macintosh hard drive users, Michael Booble dev, then but like none of that showed up on the left hand side.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, just have like some kind of like little tilde.
Yeah.
Okay, shorthand or something. Doesn't do that on PC, but it might have just been like a little like it might have represented like your users folder or something, or what my computer would say user. Mine says C:/user/. And you can also say copy in that same window that I just pointed out. You could also say copy path, and it'll just like you have it on your clipboard. You can just paste it somewhere on like a notepad, and then you'll always have it until you memorize it. I kind of memorized mine after a while.
That's a good idea. Cool. All right, I think I hopefully should be able to get it now.
Cool. No
or you could move your repo to your desktop.
I could do that.
I think we still, yeah, that's what I did. But even desktop, if you don't know where it is, I mean, like my desktop is C:/users/owner/desktop. So kind of have to know where that is. Let me just check on Steph. Are you creating those breakout rooms? Because I'll move on if you're getting pretty close to.
Yeah, they're already created.
Oh, great. Okay, can you invite? Give me a show of hands about who's having trouble just with the software. Anastasia, Erica, hands up still. Anastasia, Erica, Michael, Erica. I already said her. Sergio, Larry, Nick. I may have said those too quickly. And if anybody else who I didn't say, you can just jump in with your mic.
So those people are going into a room together?
Yeah, we're gonna do a breakout room for troubleshooting, and then can I impose on you, Brian, to help them just kind of troubleshoot the software?
Yeah.
You might want to. Does anybody here watch the IT Crowd? You can see it on Netflix. It's like an old British sitcom from like the 2000s. Or am I the only? Okay, I'm the only one. It's about these IT people, and there's kind of like a running gag. They're just every now and then the phone will ring, and then one of the guys will go, "IT department, did you try turning it off and turning it back on again?" Okay, great. And they hang up. It just fixes everything. Sorry, Charles, go ahead.
What's the list again? Sorry.
Sorry.
Oh, sure. Okay. Let's see. Michael, Anastasia, Erica, Sergio, and Larry.
Okay.
And Charles, you had a question, right?
For my daughter, sorry.
Oh, no problem.
Hey, Peter, I just a question about this activity we're in right now. We're not supposed to run the ice cream DB connection.js in VS Code yet, correct? We're still just on MySQL.
You're actually not going to bother opening the SQL file. I mean, I'll show it to you. I mean, you can open it real quick. It's just like, it looks like a file of the stuff we were writing last Tuesday. So it's, but we don't need to open it in VS Code. We need to open the SQL file in Workbench. Yeah, the JS file in VS Code.
Right. I guess I was talking about the JS file for on the VS Code side. I just wanted to make sure that we're not touching that one yet.
Yeah, you can pop it open. We're actually just going to review it.
Okay, cool. Sounds good.
Yeah, cool. In fact, okay, so I think everybody who needs to be in the breakout room is there. So let's move forward together and look at this script. Okay, I think we're good. So first thing you want to do, we're in the folder here, down here in your terminal. We're just going to say npm I, and that ought to install the package, the dependencies, right? So if we look at if you look at the JavaScript file, you can tell what the dependency is right away. It's a new package that we haven't dealt with yet. It's called MySQL, right? I know, sorry to throw such a shocker at you. And we're saving it as the keyword MySQL. Remember, because it's convention that whenever we have an npm package, we just name it after itself, but we have to save it in a variable. Now, what we really need to do is create a connection to MySQL. And then we're gonna save that that function as the variable connection. Now, this is all just syntax. This is just stuff you can just keep this file around, and when you need to connect and to a MySQL file, this is how you do it. It's just sort of like it's the same every time. We're gonna use, or we're gonna run this function, and we're going to have an array of objects. Actually, no, we're not. We're just going to have an object. So the object has a key host, and localhost is a value because we're running it on our local machines, right? And port 306, just like we used last time, and we're going to continue using. User root. Password, write in your password and save it. But be aware if you use your password with other stuff, and like at some point during the class we go like, oh, share screen, you want to like remove it before you share your screen. And database, ice cream DB, because that's the one I want to work with. So see, it's the same one here, ice cream DB. It's right over here. So now we have this connection variable set up to connect to ice cream DB. And now connection is going to have a method. Why does it have a method? You're probably going to ask. Well, it's because remember, we actually just saved a whole like MySQL function into it. And it's just all like syntax. It just, just like the window object, the document object, this thing just includes a whole bunch of stuff that we don't really see, but you get used to using it. So in connection, we have the connect method, and then we just write it like this. This is just like syntax. Just kind of memorize this little chunk here. We're going to say, if error, throw error, just so like if there's a problem, spit it out in the console. Here's where the code really begins. So here I just want to say connected as ID, and that's a string. So it's just going to print that. And then we're going to say connection.thread ID. Thread ID is, you're probably thinking, where'd that come from? We didn't write that. We didn't add that to the object. It's just something built in. Whenever you connect, it's going to kind of, I assume randomly, but maybe there is some kind of logic behind it, but it looks random to me. It's going to give you like an ID, saying, okay, this connection is called like 24, just in case, you want to create another connection. It'll like give you another ID. And that's it. And then we end the connection. We close it out. It's like, remember how we were running MySQL the other day on Tuesday, and we were saying MySQL -u root -p. We put in our password, and then it said, I think it just said connected on, it printed whatever we said we wanted to the console, connected on port 3306 or something like that. And then we would hold, no, actually, Control C doesn't work on MySQL. I think we had to type the word quit, right? And then it would turn off the server. Well, here the command connection.end, that method turns off the server. It does the same thing, just because we don't want to like keep running it. So if there's an error, it'll give you that, say, oh no, once it's connected, I should say, once it's connected, it'll give you thread ID. Oh, you know what? This should not be there. Let me get rid of that. Oh, no, I wanted that there. Yeah. Yeah, that's all if there's an error. Okay, so here's what I really wanted to do. Yeah, okay, that's good. I've been tinkering, so I have to make sure I rewrote it right for you. So we have connection.query. And now this is more just sort of like, this is just the way you write the MySQL, the stuff, the NPM package. So it's a lot of syntax, just kind of like copy paste. But this is how you do a query. You give it a quote, and it runs that in MySQL. So that probably looks very familiar to you, right? Oh, in fact, let me put these screens side by side real quick. Don't do that. There it is. Oh, that's right. That window doesn't get very small. But that's exactly this. Select all from products, right? Select all from products. And then we're running a function which it requires you to run. We're just saying if error, throw error. We do that a lot in this, with the software. But then we're going to console log the response. And you're probably kind of used to this setup by now. A lot of the NPM packages, they kind of like they use similar syntax, right? It's not logic. Don't think too deep about it. It's just syntax to memorize. Let's see what this does. So go ahead and just run the JS code by saying node and the file name. Mine's not there for some reason. Oh, there it is. Weird. It didn't print it the first time for some reason. That's oh, you know what? Mine will very unlikely run because I didn't put in a password. So I'm going to go ahead and drag that off my screen. I'm going to open up a bash terminal instead. I'll just open PowerShell. Try to make that bigger. CD, desktop, CD, UCSD. See, I'm feeling Charles's pain right now. Got to navigate all through this labyrinth.
We needed that second connection.query.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was not in our code.
Oh, you know what? I was thinking I might have been messing around with it. Okay. Forget about that. That's something for later.
So we should just be able to run it with the first connection.connect.
Should be able to. Go ahead and try it. And it should just give you that message, connect as ID, and give you like a random number like 20 or something like that. Yeah, activities. And 6, right, guys? Weird. With connection. Yep, that's it. Seems to be cool. Now off screen, I'm just gonna put in my password. All right, now I'm gonna run it. Code. Oh no, not code, Node. Good. Oh, it did something different because I have other stuff in there that I was messing around with. Let me get rid of that. All right, for real this time. And connected as ID 39. Voila, right? We created a connection instead of doing it by clicking on Workbench or, you know, all that kind of stuff, or directly just starting it up from the command line. We created a file that'll start the connection by itself, and actually turned off the connection too, because you'll notice that we're back. The command line is just the command line again after that, where we can just type stuff. If we did not do that, let me just bring my file back in over here. That comes from right here. That turns it off, right, guys? So if we got rid of connection.end and hit save, and we ran it again, connected as ID 40. But you'll notice there's no command line. We can't, I'm typing stuff here. We can't, it won't let us type, right? So the connection is continuing. Control C should fix that for you. Yeah, Control C should get us out of that.
Hey, Peter.
Yes, sir.
I'm
Dennis.
getting a module not found requires stack.
Say, just type npm I return. Well, npm space I. Did you do that?
I did that already, and so weird. Okay.
That's odd.
I'll do that again.
Huh. Yeah, and if that doesn't work, maybe just say npm space install space MySQL.
Okay.
That'll kind of like.
Hey, Peter, this is Tim. Can you hear me?
Oh, hey, Tim.
Can you hear me okay?
Oh, yeah, I can hear you perfectly.
Okay. I got a different error. It says client does not support authentication protocol required by server. Consider
So Tim, actually, I just got that, and I'm going to link the Stack Overflow solution for that. You just enter in a script into that query that we have on Workbench. I'm going to link it right now.
Oh, okay. Well, sweet. Thanks.
Thank you, Brian. Perfect.
Peter, where was the end connection again?
Should have been, let me pull up. Should have been line 24.
Yep, connection.connect error. The last line is connection.
Oh, I see it. Thank you.
And you should leave it there. I only removed it just to illustrate the fact that the server would continue running unless we put that line in our code.
Okay.
Because I know last time we were starting it from the command line, MySQL user root password and password, all that, and then we just keep running until we quit. I wanted to show you that it's the same thing. We're just doing it with a file, and then we're ending it with that line connection.end. Okay, so
is that one question I just have, like, do you, for connecting to databases, you know, when you it seems like you just connect when you want to do a query and then you disconnect right away. Is that like a convention just to make for security reasons or for like compute reasons, cost?
Right, exactly. So it's not really a security risk for us today because we're connecting with a fake, sort of like a fake server that runs on our machine. I mean, I shouldn't say it's fake. I mean, it really is running exactly like a normal server. But if your server were like at, you know, at an Amazon warehouse, for example, or whatever, you wouldn't want to keep the connection open all the time for numerous reasons. I mean, for one, it gobbles up bandwidth. For two, it creates security problems. I mean, somebody surreptitious could come up to your computer and start tinkering around. You know, it increases the chance that somebody will happen to like break into your, you know, your server, or, you know, your internet connection and steal stuff. So yeah, for a variety of reasons, you don't want to just keep a connection running all day. Probably the exception, or I mean, there are companies that want to do that. all the time, but they set up additional security protocols like something called a VPN, which you probably have heard I think both Brian and I complaining like, dang it, we forgot to turn off our VPN because our connection was getting all slow. It's sort of like a very secure way of connecting with a remote server. So yeah, I don't know if that might have been an overkill answer. I apologize.
No, thank you.
This video has been brought to you by NordVPN.
So secure. Yeah. So anyway, if anybody else has any questions,
I still can't get mine to run. I've MPI the whole entire, like 4 times. I did npm install, and I just keep on getting the same thing. Module not found, requires stack. I mean, I'm navigated into that folder. I'm gonna check something else out first.
That's weird because because that's exactly the error you'd get if you didn't import the node package. But if you did import it,
Peter, my error is I'm getting the throw error, and I didn't ever get prompted to enter my password.
oh, that's okay. It should not be asking you for a password at the command line because we're running this file that should just, all it should do is it'll give you this connected as ID, blank, 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 just whatever number, a couple digits usually. So you shouldn't have to, but you should have to put your ID in the actual file, in the JS file.
I got it, Peter.
Oh, okay. What was the trick?
The trick was I only had one end in connection.js.
Just a typo. Okay.
It was a typo. Sorry,
Sweet.
I didn't mean to hold you guys up for that. Sorry.
No. Hey, you know what? No, all troubleshooting is the most valuable thing that we can do because that you learn the most, I think.
You said we are supposed to put our password in the JS?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in that line that says J, hold on, let me look what line it is.
15.
Line 15.
Line 15.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's why my file's not on there. Stupidly, I put a password that I use on a lot of stuff. So all right. So if we're good, okay, go ahead and try our instructions in the next file over. Let me check. Otherwise, I'll slack them out. Hey, that's not a command.
Do we need to like disconnect from this ice cream DB connections?
Well, because it has that line in there,
Connection.end.
Yeah, it'll actually just end your connection automatically.
Okay.
Hey,
Cool.
Peter, I just came back from the breakout room. I entered in my password on line 15 for MySQL. And when I ran node ice cream db connection.js in my terminal, it gave me a big old error. It started off with a throw error.
What did it say? Try to find the first line that makes any sense at all.
Well, it does a little caret under throw error / rethrow non MySQL errors, and then error not supported authentication mode. Client does not support authentication protocol.
A couple of us have run into that. Brian found a good Stack Overflow page for that. I also have a command that I believe will work. So try Brian's, actually I didn't look at Brian's yet, so it may be the exact same thing. Very likely. I'm going to put it in resources. I'm just going to basically just paste it. Hey Brian, that's I just posted a little code snippet in resources. Is that basically what you found on Stack Overflow also?
Yep, exactly.
Exactly. Okay, cool.
And where do I put that?
You can just throw it down in your command line. Just copy paste in your command line, hit enter. It's always, I find it's a great practice to take like code that deals with sensitive things and just paste it in your command line, hit return, just totally with a.
And you mean command line in the terminal, right?
Yeah. Oh, your Mac user, yeah, terminal.
It said command not found, alter.
Oh, is that right? Oh, you know what? You have to start localhost. So go ahead and first type in MySQL -u quote open quotes root close quotes -p, and then that should like start your MySQL server, and then you can start using MySQL commands. And your command line will change. It'll say, instead of saying like your file path, it'll say MySQL.
Yeah, it said my command not found MySQL -u.
Oh, really? Just type MySQL straight up. Just type the word MySQL, hit enter, and see what it does.
Oh wait, hold on. I think I messed it up.
That's okay. Oh, maybe a typo.
Yeah.
That's
There
good.
was
Well, hey.
I forgot to put the space between the -u.
Okay, good.
in
Running
front
now?
of the -u. I think so.
Cool. Now paste that line that Brian had, or I provided. Either way, same line.
Okay, and then it gave me a little arrow. I assume that means password or something.
Oh yeah. Got to type in your password. And I think it might not show like little arrows for your password, but it is typing in. A lot of command line applications, when they ask for your password, they just don't give you any indication that it's working at all. So it just feels like you're typing letters into the void.
Yeah. So I entered in my password, and then it said, welcome to MySQL monitor. Commands end with : or /G, and it said my connection ID is 15.
Great. Now paste Brian and my line in there.
And then it did that little arrow. I entered in my password after that, and
actually,
it didn't seem to do anything.
So you're talking about after you pasted in the code snippet, or
I pasted
when
in
you tried
the alter user, the thing that you just posted, and then it literally just gave me like a little arrow after I entered it.
Oh, that's interesting. Shouldn't have done that. Brian, did it do that for you when you did it?
What did it do? I'm sorry.
He said it just after he pasted that alter user line in, it just like gave him an arrow and just sat there like it just hung.
I didn't get that. Maybe try restarting your workbench.
So do I need to change like your root password at all, or?
You should put in your password. It should at the very end.
Okay.
When the error pops up, you just type in MySQL. That'll open this query instance.
Okay.
Oh, really?
And then you can hit query commands in there, and it'll recognize it.
The suspense is killing me.
It's killing me too.
Dun dun dun.
Yeah. I'm not getting. I don't know. That seems to be.
Let's jump in a breakout room, and there might be other people. Anybody else who want to troubleshoot running this JS file? Okay. So Steph, if you wouldn't mind opening or inviting Ivan and Michael and Robert, okay, and Glenn and Erica. And then if I didn't catch you, you can say something.
And Sergio.
Oh, okay, and Sergio, please. And try to get this first JS file to run. Remember, you have to. No, it's probably not the solution for Michael, but you have to run the SQL file in Workbench before it'll work.
What were the names again? I have Sergio, Erica.
Ivan, Sergio, Erica, Ivan, Robert, Michael. Carly may have just been scratching her head. No Carly. Okay, no Carly. JK, LOL with Carly. And Nick and Glenn.
Nick M or Nick P?
Oh, Nick P. Who's growing a beard. It's looking good, man. I'm a little biased, but. And then, Brian, can I impose upon you to help those folks?
Sure. I'll be in there in a sec.
Okay, cool. Thanks, guys and gals. All right. So let's while they debug and troubleshoot, let's try this first exercise. Actually, I was just going to check to see whether it's actually in our activities folder or whether I should just slack it out.
So there is a folder, but we don't have a README file in the activity 7. Is that what you're looking at?
Yeah. Oh, okay. That's like the next exercise. Okay, let's not do that. I'm just going to slack you out some just some basic instructions. It's we can just build it from scratch. And since it's just like sort of like a word to the wise, it's very similar to doing the exercise we just did. It'll no doubt bring you a headache, and you'll have to troubleshoot. But that's it's half the fun. Okay, here they are. Okay, I slacked out the instructions in the class activities channel. Let's let's take 10 minutes at it, and then we'll come back and troubleshoot and swap war stories with it. I'll see you all in 10. By the way, the language is a little funny in this in these instructions. When it says create your playlist DB, it makes it sound like you should know what that is. It just like create a database and call it playlist DB. You should do that in Workbench.
Peter, quick question if you're here.
So how'd it go on a Vista 5? Did we get the connection? Oh, whoa, wow. Oh, nice. Okay, sweet. Wow. I thought I would see more problems. That's great. Who ran into like unexpected errors? Yeah, TJ, what'd you encounter?
Cannot find module MySQL is what I'm finding right now.
That sounds like wherever you built the file, you'd need to install MySQL. Oh, you know what? Okay, so you know in the sample file that we did just before this exercise, it has, you know, required in MySQL. Well, that folder has a package.json in it,
Yeah.
and that calls it, like, you know how we had like npm I, and what npm I does is it goes into that package.json and it goes, okay, what do we need here? And it reads it, goes, oh, we need MySQL in this case.
Oh,
and
okay.
It grabs MySQL from the clouds and it installs it for you. What you would have to do is specifically install it. And we do that by saying npm I or install and telling it what package to go get. In this case, you just simply say npm install MySQL.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, punch. We're gonna move on, but punch that in and see if it makes your code run. Anybody else encounter that problem? That was actually tricky.
Yeah, I was doing the same thing. And I did notice that there was a package JSON and it wasn't loading up with the npm I, but that fixed it.
Oh, saying npm install MySQL?
Yep.
Oh, great. Okay. Yeah, as long as you, the npm, the package.json is really just like a shortcut. So you don't have to sit there and go, npm install MySQL. Okay, installed. Okay, now npm install fs. Okay, got it. Npm install, you know, like all that stuff. Because some of your apps will have tons of these. Okay, so good. Anybody get the bonus stuff was all sort of like there to like kind of exercise your brain and make you remember the stuff from Tuesday. Did anybody, I mean, Saturday, did anybody do any of that? Okay, fantastic. Okay, I'm so glad to see that you made it that far. That's good practice. So, okay, let's move on. And so we created our connection. We did a little bit of a workout with some more MySQL stuff. Now let's learn how to read something from the database. Oh, I'm still sharing screen. Cool. Okay. So I just brought in my ice cream connection, and it's the same exact file. So you can go ahead and go to your file too. And I changed nothing. Well, actually, I removed my data, my password, but. And then there's this one little chunk that you may have noticed I had added earlier, and that is connection.query. So this is just like connection.connect that connects to MySQL, right? But we'll often want to do something more than just connect to it, right? In this case, we want to query the database, right? Querying just means interacting, actually. So I mean, even though we usually think of queries asking for a question, well, it can in MySQL language, it can also mean like doing other things. So we're going to query, and we're going to send it this string, select star from products. Now you probably recognize that from this right here, right? Select star from products. It means star. Does anybody know what star means?
All.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. This is very common through a lot of different computer codes. Star just means all, everything. So we're saying select everything from products, and then we're giving it the if error, throw error thing. If there's a function, if there's an error, make sure to print it to the console. And then we're going to console log response. Response is right there. And remember, it's automatically populated by the MySQL package. We didn't there's no logic behind it. That's just the way the software works. So let's see. I am going to actually bring this off the screen for just a quick sec. Okay, brought it back. Okay. Now I'm going to, okay, I'm already in the right folder. That's good. I'm going to run this and see what it does this time. Node. There we go. Let's see here. Okay, so it does the same thing as what we had before, right? Connect as ID 41. But now it's spitting out flavor, chocolate, price 3.1, quantity 120. Let's look over here. Oh, we got to open the right database for starters. Which one are we connecting to? Ice cream, right? That's interesting. Do the data line up? Chocolate.
I think it does line up. It looks fine to me because quantity is 20 chocolate. Yeah.
Oh, there it is. Okay, you know what? It threw me. I didn't see this. There we go. So vanilla 2.5, quantity 100. Vanilla 2.5, quantity 100. Yeah, thanks for pointing that out. Yeah, everything does line up. I just wonder why the first one is just in line and then the rest of them actually have carriage returns. Oh, well, it doesn't matter. So awesome. So it printed out what we wanted, right? So that's how you interact. You use connection.query to actually query the database. So pardon me one second. Oops. Pardon me one moment while I pull something up. Okay. Here we go. It's an 08 playlist read. Okay, you're going to be doing something really similar here. So go ahead and navigate to 08 playlist read. We're going to take, let's take another 10 minutes on this one. It's very similar to this, you know, what we just did. And just if somebody could make sure that there's a README file in there with some instructions. If not, I'll slack the instructions out.
Didn't we just do 08?
I thought we just did 08, yeah, because we did something similar.
Did we?
Yeah, the README file is exactly the same. Almost exactly the same.
Well, yeah, it basically is the same assignment. I followed the README file instead of your instructions, Peter.
Well, no, actually, in the 08 file, it actually asks us to put data in the database and then go through and review it through Node.js.
Doesn't 08 ask you to do it with that playlist you made earlier, though?
Yes, it does use the playlist we created earlier. Or if
Okay,
you didn't
cool. So if you didn't do what I just did with the ice cream file, go ahead and do 08 because it's yeah, like our colleagues just said, it's very, very, very similar. except it does it with the playlist file that you made earlier. So go ahead and just take a few minutes and just make sure that it works. And if you already did it, then you're good. And we'll circle back at 748. Okay, we're back. So was everybody able to, or everybody or anybody able to get the console to spit out, give me a show of hands if you were able to get the console to spit out certain people by their genre. Okay, awesome. A few. So, and if you didn't get there, that's cool, because it was a little tight having to put data into the database as well as write the code to dig it out and print through the console. So it's a little much for 10 minutes. If you did, you're a ninja. If you didn't, you're probably still a ninja, but time was tight. So oh good, my screen's still sharing. So let me show you a couple ways that you could do this. Just one moment. You know what? I'm just going to keep working on the same ice cream file. I'm going to kind of keep it small because I'll probably have to jump over to Workbench a couple times. Oops. Okay, that's what we had last time. Cool. I'm just going to add some new code down here. I wrote that in myself. It wasn't in your file or anything. Except, you know what? Playlist.db. Playlist DB. I think we're cool. And then playlist DB has a table called songs. So I'm going to change that. I'm just working with that ice cream file, by the way. Songs or song? I think just songs. Yeah, songs. And then for starters, we wanted to print everything out, right? So let's go connection.connect. And this is all just like, paste. This is a kind of copy paste code from what I showed you before. So I'm not gonna explain it or anything because it's kind of just like you just keep it pasted on in this file. Actually, you can just keep this file on your computer. Then if you ever need to know it, say one of your clients has a MySQL database, or one of your boss or whatever, you'll know how to grab that file real fast. So okay, we already had we already have that. Cool. Let me get rid of this. So that means let's just run this code real quick. Am I in the right folder? Yes, I am. Okay. Hit LS again. Sometimes it's hard to copy paste when it gets all weird like that. Still going to be difficult. There we go. Now it's all in one line. Oops. Or node. Oh, did I forget to change something? Did I not hit save? Oh, I didn't save. Okay. Saving helps. All right, there we go. Cool. So all we're doing is just spitting out the results, just blah style, But let's try to do something a little fancier. I kind of want to break them up. So I'm gonna say connection.query. You know what? We already did that. Now you'll notice that the return is an array, right? You can tell that by the square brackets. And then because the curly braces, you can tell that it's objects. Oh, by the way, this may be a little deceiving, but the way it says like row, data, package, or whatnot, if you wanted to kind of like get to those, you would not have to go something like res dot row data packet dot, number 0, or anything like that. You should actually just be able to say it's an array, so you should be able to say that. Just 0. You don't have to say that row data packet is just something like the way that MySQL chooses to present it, but it's not really like part of the code. I know that is confusing. That'll throw you off. Anyway, let's not just console log this whole thing out, sort of code dump kind of style. Instead, let's cycle through, since it's an array, right? We can cycle through them with a for loop, right? So I want to cycle through and say, okay, well, we all know this for loop, right? So I is less than res.length. We've typed this a bunch of times by now, right? Probably many of you have accidentally memorized it at this point. Then let's console log something for each item, so it looks a little nicer. So console.log response, and just like I was saying, we can just go straight up response and then the number on the index on the array. So in this case, we're going to use the incrementer because that, of course, that's how you like cycle through each item in the array. And I wanted to console log the ID, because if you look at the table, did I playlist? Okay, here it is. So it has an ID, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm saying, give me the ID, and then I'm just gonna say like, give it a bar. Those are called bars, by the way. It's just a string. And then I want it to print out whatever's next. Let's check what's next. Title. Okay, title. Incidentally, this is from another professor. This database, I actually don't know who 2 of these bands are. So if they're awful, don't judge. I didn't put those 2 in. Res, index, and dot. You guessed it, title, right? Let's go ahead and throw in another bar to kind of pretty it up a little bit. Res index dot. What's the next? Artist. Right. Artist plus another bar plus res. You get the pattern by now, I'm sure. What was it? Genre. Now let's see if that looks a little prettier.
Peter, are you able to wrap?
Oh, yeah, great. Let me do that.
Thank you.
I'm not very well able to wrap, but I can talk a word wrap on.
We'll have to see your wrapping skills someday.
I shudder to think. Okay, I'm just gonna divide them up with a line just to pretty it up. Okay, let's run the same file. Hopefully it'll look a little nicer now. There we go. That looks better, right? If you ask me. Have like the little vertical bars to kind of break everything up. So now what if I wanted to show only, say, like dance genre? Can anybody walk me through what they did to do dance genre?
Sure.
Great. You know what? I'm gonna just copy paste this code down below because I want it to. We'll just modify this code. Okay, go ahead and tell me what you did.
So I'd use connection.query. And then you can pretty much copy everything from select star from songs from the comma. And we'll just insert within the quotations. So, okay, sorry. So go from there. Sorry, my bad. So go select from songs. And then after songs, space, capital where, genre. You said dance, right? So
yeah,
equal,
dance.
So equal.
Oops, clicked on something else. Equal.
Then a single quote, dance.
Great catch
And
with
then-
a single quote.
And then quiz, yeah, that's it. That's all I need.
Nice. Okay, let's give it a go and see what happens.
I didn't use all the other stuff, but there you go. Yeah.
Oh, good, because it did the same thing. Awesome work. So we got just the two that are dance genre, right? So great. Thank you so much, Enrilo. I appreciate you. Now there's one thing I wanted to show you, a little a little trick with this MySQL, this whole MySQL package that you can use. There's a little bit of syntax where if you wanted to, you could write it like this. Another way to write it would be to put a question mark right there. Even though it's in the string, MySQL will still understand what you're saying. You're throwing a variable in there, and then MySQL wants you to give it the value of that variable as the next argument you're passing. And they want you to give it as an array. I know that seems funny, but if you just copy paste this on a little, well, I mean, you'll have the file. So, just keep it around. And I know it sounds a little complicated, but so I'm giving it array with square brackets, and then it's only one item in the array. They just want it to be an array, even if it's just one item. And I'm just going to put the word dance. And so what that does is my SQL package knows that if it grabs a string and it goes, oh, there's a question mark in there, I need to insert that. And if it's more than one thing in the array, it'll insert them all. In this case, that would probably cause an error. But as long as you just pass it with dance in this circumstance, should give us the same result. So I just saved. Let's see what happens. Okay, cool. So it gave us the same result. Let's try, just to show you that it's working and I didn't just forget to hit save. I think we said the other two are classic rock, The Who and the Beatles. There we go, and I'll run it again. And instead of the dance bands, it gives us The Who and the Beatles. So that's another way to do that. Okay, how are we feeling so far? 0 to 5, in terms of comfort with this type of stuff. Okay, some good. Okay, that's good. Good. I see mostly 3s, 4s, and 5s. So awesome. This whenever we jump into MySQL, this is a learning curve. So if it's hard to catch on, that's totally normal. In fact, you guys are catching on, as always, faster than I expected. So that's amazing. All right, so it's time to move on to, so far we've learned to connect to the database with code, right? Instead of doing it through the command line and start getting information from the database instead of, going to in a minute MySQL and looking at it, writing code that'll go get information from the database. And incidentally, at this point, you might be able to start seeing where we're going with this, right? We're getting information from the database, and all these past months, you've been hearing me say, back-end code I often describe as oh, the user sends you a username and you check the database, you see if it's there. And if it is, then you check the password and does it match? And if it does, deliver them this content. If it does not match, deliver them this. You can see that this is what's doing, right? We're finally getting into that segment where we're interacting with the database and exchanging information with it. So far, we're only reading it, right? Let's get cruddier. Let's start, doing more things other than just reading.
Peter, are you able to scroll down real quick or just move the terminal out of the way a little?
Oh, sure.
Oh, okay, that's just to break the console log.
Just to look
I'm assuming this is going to be part of the solved version, correct?
Yes. Yeah, it is. It'll look a little different because I'm just kind of writing this on the fly, but it's the same idea. In fact, I think it's just the question mark one that I put in there. All right, let me pull up the next thing real quick. Give me 1 sec. You know what? Actually, I just remember as I was looking for this file, there is one point I wanted to bring up. You remember how we were talking about how things get a little sticky when they're running asynchronously? So remember, what are we doing that was asynchronous? We had like kind of put a timeout in there to solve it. When you go to an API and you say, hey, API, give me this info, but then you're kind of relying on their server to deliver it to you, but your code doesn't care. It's just going to keep running. And so if other parts of your code further down rely on those data that you are supposed to have gotten from an API, but like say the API is being like totally bombarded with traffic or something, and it's delivering data really slowly, your code is going to error out, right? And so that's why we put a lot of this type of stuff in callbacks. And this will be the case with stuff that we get from the server, because like, or I'm sorry, from the database, because oftentimes we'll like work with code, but we'll need to get data from the database, right? Before we execute the rest of it. The way it's written right now, it would be like, let me look for an example. Okay, so we have the connection, right? But then we're executing code that depends on the connection. So it's been working great so far because everything we do just runs right here on our machine. So it's not a problem. But in the future, depending on the way your host sets it up, you might have the database and your backend code executed on like the same processor, in which case you should be fine. Or like they might even be on the same hard drive. Because remember, they are physical computers out there in warehouses for these companies. But sometimes they'll break them up, and like, the databases might be, on the third floor, but the backend code might be running on the first floor or something, and they'll have to communicate between each other. So then that becomes problematic if one of their servers, the processor is just a little slower, than the other one. So like processor A running your Node.js is going fast, but for some reason their SQL servers are slowed down. You're not getting the data, and it just bugs out your code. Your code just gives errors because it's not getting the data from the database. Does that make sense? So that's the problem. Here's the solution. So instead of just running the code from top to bottom, let's put some of this stuff in a function, right? I'll just do it up here. And this one will be, let's say like display all. We'll just call it that. I'm gonna tab everything over a little bit. Make sure the curly braces line up. Okay, cool. I'm gonna take this. Oop, nah, don't do that. I'm gonna take this. I'm gonna run it up here. I'm gonna get rid of connection.end. I'm just gonna say that, display all. Let's run it just to make sure we didn't break it. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna run it anyway, even though I believe there's gonna be a problem, but cool. So it's still running, right? Because all we did was we hit all this code inside of a function, and then we just called the function up right when right away when it connect. Connecting is the first thing it does, and then it's gonna execute all the code below, right? But actually I don't know if you noticed, but I erased something that was kind of important, and it's resulting in, I can't really use my command line anymore. Anybody know what I did? What I did wrong?
Connection end.
Yeah, exactly, connection end. So since this is display all, let's go to display all, and let's end that function with connection.end. Okay. Oop. Let's run it again. Oh, that's right. We have to press Control C to shut down the server. Let's run it again. And this time it worked normally, right? It ended the connection after it executed the code. So let's, interestingly though, I just noticed this. It actually ran this code first, and then it got to this, which shows you that some parts of my computer are running slightly more slowly than others. So actually, I guess it can work that way on one machine. So let's put both in a function. Function, what do we call this one? Let's see, what was the other one called? Display all, so we'll call this one display genre. Tab it over a little bit. There we go. Close the curly brace. Put the bracket for the semicolon that you actually don't need to put in with JavaScript. And then wait, let's copy paste that so I don't misspell it. Display all, then display genre. But now we need to remove connection end. And we need to put it down here at the bottom of this function, right? Otherwise it'll end the connection after that first function. Let's give it a go, see what happens. And there we go. So now so I know the result is disappointing. We made it work exactly like it was working before we did all this stuff. But now it's working in a way that if, you know, in the real world, when you have data coming in at different speeds, it'll have to get those data before it moves on to the next function. Then it'll, you know, has to finish executing that function. Then it'll get the next one and then it'll end, right? So let's, I forgot what I was gonna do. Ah, right, okay, let's do more stuff. So we're reading just fine, but let's create some code to do more stuff. Why don't we start with creating? So let's just, I'm gonna wrap this one in a function just like I did before to keep with that best practice of, you know, creating it so our code works, you know, properly, so. Call it create product because that's what we're about to do. And then let's console log something just so we know that everything's working. You know, I love to console log every step along the way. I'll say inserting a new product. Okay. It's just like a little message. And then I'm going to do a carriage return. If anybody doesn't remember, the special character for that is a /n, and that'll just cause the console to jump to the next line. It's like hitting return, you know? And let's make sure that's working. Actually, let's move connection.end down here. Now, I'm just going to run it to make sure everything's cool. Everything is not cool. No, what went wrong? Hold on. Create product. All right, just console logged something. I don't see the console log there though. Oh, actually it went first. Am I tripping?
I did that on mine too.
Is it because it would exercise or execute the fastest? Interesting. I would expect that. You know what? Now I'm starting to wonder, because of that result, I'm wondering that if it'll execute, because I can tell you this for sure, it will not move on from this function until everything has executed. But why would that go for, maybe just because it completed the first? Well, I guess inside this function, they'll execute in whatever order they come in they come in the fastest.
So Peter, then if you put in a delete and it tries to execute the delete before, then wouldn't it throw an error?
Yeah, I would imagine that if you did say like a create and then a delete, but then the delete ran first, like we were faster.
Also, that's the function that's ending the connection. So why would it even run the first one?
Yeah, that's a little puzzling to me. I'm gonna have to research this and let you know what's up. Well, then in the meantime, let's work on the CRUD stuff, and then we'll get computer sciencey later. So let's continue our code. Okay, we're down here. Now let's say, we probably just copy some of this stuff. Let me think about this for just one moment. We can't really copy paste the last line. I'll kind of explain why in a minute. But first, we're going to save our query in a variable this time. So normally we just go, connection dot query right off the bat. And that should become clear to you in just a few minutes. Now we're running, I'm going to space it out because this is going to be a little bit longer of a function. But otherwise, we're going to do this exactly the same. We're going to insert some MySQL code, except instead of saying, what we've said before, select all from all, or, select all from where genre, blah, blah, blah. We're going to say insert. Remember insert from Saturday? And we're going to say insert into, I believe the table was called product.
You changed it to songs.
Oh, okay. Now we're working on the, okay, cool. So let's say songs, insert into songs. Now set, and I'm going to go ahead and use this variable technique that I showed you a minute ago. Because you remember how I said you could pass it an array of things? Well, here we're going to give it a pass, we're going to pass an array. So let's see here. This is going to be an array of objects. And we're going to say flavor. Flavor Cherry Garcia.
Is that a song?
It's the lead singer and guitar player from the Grateful Dead's name was Jerry Garcia, but not Tom and Jerry's. Ben and Jerry's ice cream has a flavor called Cherry Garcia.
That's my favorite flavor.
I could feel your Cherry Garcia vibes and I was channeling them.
It is also one of my favorite flavors.
Nice, Sean.
See, just being overwhelmed with. See, there we go. And then that should be good. Actually, we're just going to give it that one object. Then function. This is actually just sort of like copy paste from before, but I'm just gonna retype it.
Here I have a question.
If error, hit me.
We're on ice cream right now, right? Because you have insert into songs.
Oh, that's right. I do have it. My brain is so scrambled. Thank you for catching me. Okay, so that would totally error out. Thank you for pointing that out. So we need to go title, artist, genre. Title, artist, genre. Title, Ride the Lightning. Sorry guys, I'm inflicting my bad taste in music on you. Artist. Metal, cool. And the rest of it, this is pretty much just a little bit of copy paste from, you could just kind of copy paste this from the last exercise. Except for one detail I wanted to point out. You remember how I told you that response comes with like a variety of different sort of things attached to it, because response is a big old object. And you can print it and read all the methods and the objects and all this stuff on it. One of the things is, oh my gosh, we haven't taken a break yet. I'm in trouble. Well, let me show you this one and then give the next assignment to you, and then we'll take a break. So one of them is, unless, should be affected rows, if memory is serving me correctly. So affected rows, and then we could just say something. It will print out. It should print out the rows that are affected, but we'll print out something, some like string to make sure that it's working. So I'll just say like product inserted because we're inserting this time. Inserted. Let's do a carriage return so it doesn't print the next product or the next album right next to it. Okay, I think we'll be good with that. There's a little bit of a lot to type, so I wouldn't be surprised if we got an error. But hopefully we put in enough console logs to kind of track the error down if we get it. Oh, wow, no error. That's weird. Okay, so number of products inserted 1, so that's good. And let's see, it should be, doesn't look like it added the product though. Let's go over here and look at it. I'm going to refresh. Talking playlist here. I'm going to run this SQL code again to look at it, and oh, it did work. Ride the lightning. So to your point, who was talking about things creating Dennis, was that you and I were talking about? Yeah. So looks like it ran the code. Oh, but you know what? Oh, okay. I know what happened here. So it ran the create product code. Did we put it up here though? Oh, we did put it up here. Oh, but it did it last. Okay, let's see what happens if we do it first. Okay, hopefully it'll actually print it.
Make sure you change the data, otherwise you'll get an error because it won't insert the data again, the same data into the table.
Yeah, good point. Anybody have a favorite album?
The Black Album?
Perfect. Now I don't have to change anything else. Okay, let's run it, see what happens. Product. We did get an error this time. Oh, because so now it's giving us an error because we have connection.end, but we're running that function first. So it's giving us that, it's saying, let's look at the result. So it's saying inserting new product, but then it gives us an error because we ended the connection and then we tried to run more of MySQL commands. So let's put it at the end of the final function, display genre. So there it is, display genre. We'll paste it right there. Fingers crossed. And it worked. There it is, the Black Album. We did it twice because we ran it a minute ago and it did successfully add it, but then it wouldn't execute the rest of it. It just added it. So that's why we have 2 of the Black Albums there. So twice the bang for your buck, Sean. Okay, everybody. So there is an exercise that does this, except there's a few things that we're kind of running short on time at this point. So let me give you a few snippets in the resources channel here. I'm going to give you a sample of code that you can use to update products. So I'm going to paste that into resources real quick. Just sent that to you. And then here's a delete product sample code. I think that should do it for the next assignment. So let's take a 15-minute break and then you can pull open, and you can do it now if you wanted to. Actually, I don't think the instructions are in the repo. So I'll just paste them in the class activities channel. And now notice I only gave you, actually, I think I've given you everything that you need. So let's, even though this is quite a lot for 10 minutes. We'll just call it the break plus this exercise. So, 20, we'll circle back in 25 minutes, but, take your break in that time. So I'll see you at 25. So let's just make it even and say 35. So 50, 850.
Peter, where was the query variable being called?
In this one? Okay, I'll show you.
In the create.
Did I use the query variable in create? Yeah, insert. So, I see what you're saying. So that's actually pulling out a whole object there. Actually, I just realized it doesn't necessarily have to be an array. I don't know why that didn't occur to me earlier. Okay, yeah, you can put in an object too. That's cool. But anyway, yeah, whatever is there, it gets replaced with whatever you pass in next. So in this case, it's an object, if that makes sense. Want me to, I can paste this in the resources too.
I'm getting an error saying cannot invoke query after invoking quit.
That's probably because it's running this connection.end too soon. If you want to totally get rid of that error, you can just delete connection.end. And then it'll just, like, every time you run it, it'll just have the MySQL server like running, and you'll have to hit Control-C to stop it. And then, like, when you're done with your code, you could just add connection.end at the end of whatever function you're calling last, which is a fine way to do it.
Peter, is this activity 09 ice cream crud?
Let me check. Is there a README in there that looks like the instructions I slacked out?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that should be. I'll make sure to double check. Let me double check. If it looks exactly like the instructions I slacked out, then yeah, I guess it's 09 ice cream.
Quick question to anyone who's still here, but does anyone have Workbench in dark mode? Because theoretically it's supposed to follow the system default, but it's not.
And still white. It thinks it's daytime.
Yeah, it is 09, exercise 09.
When are we coming back again?
I think 50, he said 850.
Yeah.
Is that what you said, Peter? Okay, cool.
Yeah. Oh, oops, it's 52. Hey, everybody. Hope you had a good break. So we're gonna end the lesson today with a big group project. So Steph already formed some groups. In a moment, she'll be inviting you into them. But first, go ahead and pop open 10 Great Bay. Go ahead and review the instructions. I'll give you a couple minutes. Okay, now that you've had a moment to review the instructions, you're probably wondering what this might look like. So let me give you an example. So, so I've obviously installed the MySQL package and I've built a database already. Okay, so and of course I have like the JS file here, but you don't need to, don't pay attention to that really. You just want to look at the console. So let me go ahead and just run this this file here. So in the console itself, we're going to have a little prompt that'll say, would you like to post an auction or bid on an auction? Here you can use the arrow keys. We're going to, in advance, we're going to Slack you the solution. So I'd like you to try to Google and figure out this stuff on your own. There are multiple approaches to anything. Of course, you already realize that. But you know, the solve solution is one way to approach it. So you'll have a little cheat sheet in your pocket. So I'm going to say bid. What auction would you like to place a bid in? For that, I'm going to go ahead and take a cheat peek at my database here. Great Bay auctions. Great Bay _DB auctions. I'm going to run this script. Oh, there's nothing in there, of course, so we have to start with, I don't know, we'll say whatevs. Please enter a valid index, right? So that's not going to work because there's nothing in there yet. Nobody posted anything. So we got to say post first. I'll post one of guitars. So guitar. What category would you like to post this in? Instruments. What would your starting bid like to be? I guess 100. All right. Now let's go ahead and look at our database. I'm going to refresh. I'm going to go ahead and run the script again. And there it is. Guitar, instruments, starting bid, a highest bid. Okay, now let's do bid. And it gives us, hey, you can bid on a guitar. So I'll say 1. How much would you like the bid to be? 200. Okay, so we've posted our bid. Now let's go look at the database. We're going to run this script again. And it shows starting bid, highest bid. And that's the long and short of it. Nobody ever wins in this auction. So technically we have just a little over half an hour to do this. We're going to do it in groups. So you want to break the tasks up. I would be just shocked if you actually got this done in just 35 minutes. But get as close as come along, get as close as you can, and then you can finish it. We're here till 10 for office hours, so you can work till 10, or you can just try it on your own after class ends. So you have an invitation. Just jump into your breakout room when you're ready. of those demos.
Okay, it's recording now.
Okay, thanks. So we have drop database if exists, which is a very common thing to start a SQL file with. Then create the database, and then use the database. This is all stuff from from Saturday. So, and then create table is the keyword. We call the table auctions, and then we have just a few different columns, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 columns. We have ID. Integer. Oh, by the way, I don't think I ever showed you that this is a little abbreviation for integer. So you can write out the whole word integer, or you can just write int. Then not null. So it can't be, it has to have something in that in every row. And then we're going to auto increment. So whenever we auto increment, we have to add this to the bottom. It's just the way MySQL works. So it's not like logical. It's not one of those logic things. It's just, oh, that's just the way it works. And then we have to give it the column's name. So if we called this like whatevs, we'd have to change this to whatevs. It would still work. But actually our code would break now that I think about it, because the code all says ID. Anyway. And then we simply fill out the different columns. We create a column called item name. It's 100 characters long. It can't be null. We have a category column. Same thing. It's got to be a string, which is what varchar means, or varchar, not null. Hey, Steph or Brian, would you be inclined to say varchar or varchar?
Varchar.
Char.
Me too. Okay, just curious if anybody actually, because it stands for variable character, right? So why would we not say varchar? But I say varchar too, and it seems like everybody does. Okay, just
so it's GIF then, not GIF.
You know what? Are you referencing that? Because I mean, I heard that the creator of that file type says it should be GIF.
I think he
but
did it as a
feels
joke.
really weird.
I think he did it
for
to
real?
troll. I feel like he really did that just to be an internet troll, just because it's an internet joke. You know what I mean? So there's no way it can really be GIF when it's graphical, right? That's
so
the
it's
first word.
varchar then.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, that's
you can't have it
yeah.
both ways here.
I say just say what everybody else says so you don't confuse people.
Yeah, just follow everyone. Be a sheep. I'm kidding.
Yeah. We could do all our JavaScript variables in all caps too if we wanted. Let's see.
Yeah, I worked with the instructor who called MySQL squeal.
There you go.
Squeal.
Isn't it shortened to SQL though?
Everybody says SQL. And there are different types of SQL.
I love squeal.
MySQL.
MySQL. Come on.
It just reminds me of Deliverance, which doesn't sit well with me. I guess Ned Beatty references are not very popular in this class anymore. 70s movie, no, okay.
Sorry, bro.
Yeah,
the oldest
we're
movie
millennials.
The oldest movie I've seen is Back to the Future, and that's not that old.
Yikes.
Yeah. Well, it's the movie from which the line "squeal like a pig" comes from, and you can Google it if you want. I'm not going to stop you. It's a classic. It's actually a good movie. Burt Reynolds. Anyway, okay, so you get the idea behind this. Though we have an integer. Default is 0. Default is 0. So if nothing's put in there, default to 0. Why is it giving me a squiggly underline? Oh, duh, because we're in VS Code. It's VS Code and it thinks it's like JavaScript or something. Anyway, so yeah, that's all we start with. So what does that mean? It means it creates a database, it creates some columns, and it sets up the columns to take some data, saying, okay, this one can't be null, this one can't be null, this one will default to 0, but it doesn't give it anything, right? Let's close that out. And that's, if you recall correctly, whenever I first started this demo a little while ago, that's what happened is actually I went into it thinking that I still had a few like items in there, and I didn't. And it said like, oh, you have to enter the name of a valid item, because there was nothing, right? Now let's go over the code. So let's see, we are going to require in MySQL. And then we have the return of an old friend, inquire. Does everybody remember what that one does?
We're allowed to create questions.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And it sort of allows us to make, like, remember how in the browser we were able to use the prompt method? This sort of does the same thing. Except it allows us to do a few different things, but it allows us to prompt and ask for questions, just like Ivan said. Now, this is sort of copy paste type stuff. We're creating a connection and we're giving it, localhost, port 306, root password, and telling it the database. That's all just copy paste stuff. So keep that around because you want to use that in the future. A little bit more copy paste code because we're creating a connection just like we did every time. And this is just the way the MySQL package wants us to set up a connection, right? Now, here's an interesting thing. This comes from Inquirer. And it allows us to, let's see, run the start function after the connection is made to prompt the user. So that starts a prompt. And the start function runs inquirer.prompt. So it's been a while since we used this, but we actually did use inquirer.prompt before. And there's a certain syntax you have to pass in through inquirer.prompt. I see a TikTok link. I'll have to check it out later. So anyway, we go name, we kind of just run the inquirer.prompt just like we'd run it every other time we used it. It's been a while. It's been like a week or two since we used it, but it's syntax that you just need to copy paste really. But one of them is you give it a little message to give the user, would you like to post an auction or bid on an auction, right? Because it's a list type right there, it'll allow you to pass this choices. So bear in mind, this is not logical. This is just Inquirer syntax, right? There, I couldn't tell you, oh, it's like this because of this. It's just like, you just write it like that. That's just the way it's written. And then whenever somebody puts in an answer, it runs this callback. And now the answer will be called post or bid because that's what we told it the answer will be named, right? Answer.post or bid. If it's exactly equal to post, and so it will be exactly equal to because we're not asking them to type anything, right? We're giving them a little list to choose from, post. And then we run this function, post auction. So you know what? Let's just skip down to that. Here's post auction. And then it runs another function, inquirer.prompt, right? And it prompts more stuff. What item would you like to submit? And this is actually an input field, so you can just type whatever. And then it asks you what category would you like to, whatever. And another input field, so you can just type that. And then what would you like the starting value to be? This is an input field, but if the value is not a number, and that's how we test whether the value is not a number. We've used is not a number or is non before. If it's equal to false, so if it's not a number, return true. Hey, wait a minute. I confused myself. Should it be like that? Otherwise return false?
If it returns true, well, if not a number equals false, it returns true such that you can complete the next prompt.
Okay. I'll not think too deeply about it and we'll move on.
Double negative, exactly. Double negative.
Since you guys get it, then we'll keep going. I feel like I could have made that a little more simple, but so anyway, here's the callback. So we take the answer connection. Now here's where it gets MySQL-y, right? We're going to do a connection.query. This is the syntax that we just learned. We're going to say insert into. Remember that we did this. It's gonna create. We tell it item. These are all the columns in our SQL database, and then we're populating those columns with values, right? So item name is, and then remember, answer.item will be up here. See, that's the name of. I see confused looks, and it's kind of hard to articulate. So let me move up here. remember how they prompt it? We give the prompt a name, post or bid, right? And then we ask them a question and they give an answer. Well, the answer comes back to us right here. And then it'll have a value on that object because it comes back as an object. The answer is an object. It comes back to us as post or bid because that's what we named it. So flash to the future. Yeah, we say answer again here. And then item name, that's the column name in the SQL database, answer.item. See, so because we set that item, the answer they put in will have that name item because we put it up here, right there. I know it's a little jumping around. Okay, I see a little bit less confused face. Okay, cool. I think we're good. It's hard. If like I feel like if we could all look at a screen that's like this, it would be a little more logical.
This is also why people get vertical screens.
I always wanted one, but they're like $300.
It's just a regular screen except rotate it.
Yeah, I don't know. Is yours? Do you have one that rotates? Because mine doesn't rotate. Yeah. Oh, lucky. So let's see here. Okay, here we go. So inserting into, and we insert in all this stuff, right? And the only thing that really has to do with our Inquirer code that was above is this stuff. That's Inquirer. That's Inquirer. You know, this is the stuff that we got from Inquirer. Other than that, the rest of this is all the new MySQL writing, you know, code that we studied today. This is another piece that's basically like copy paste stuff. You know, if error, throw error, console log whatever you want. That's not copy paste. And then we run the start method again. So let's go look at the start method. And here it is, Inquirer, post bid. Would you like to post an auction or bid on an auction? So after you finish posting, right, it runs again. Wait a minute. Did it though? Let's run it. Oh, of course. Yeah, I changed my password. Gonna sneak it over here real quick.
So if you were to add an ID for each of the items, and then when you're creating the item, you just don't add an ID property, would it default to the one created in MySQL?
I believe that we have the ID property as auto incrementing, right? So, so if we try to add an ID, it'll error because it's already populating it with something.
So you just don't like have an ID property in the creating array then.
Perfect. Exactly. Yeah. And then once you create the item, it'll automatically add a property to ID. Okay, what did we say? We said post, right? Post ninja sword. Would you like to place your auction in awesome things? How much would you like to starting? $1 million. Okay, so it did start again. Okay, so my memory was mistaken. I was thinking that it ended after you posted something, but no, it does start over again, which is what happens right there. So after you post something to bid, it starts again. It runs the function again. And this time, let's just say if we said bid, right? So if we said if answer equals post, and then we jump down to post auction, right? So else, if answer equals bid, we do bid auction. So let's go down to bid auction and see what that looks like. So here's bid auction. We connection.query, that's copy paste syntax. Select all from auctions, right? Because we're trying to display the items to the user. If error, throw error. And then we have to get, let's see. Okay. Inquirer.prompt, right? So we're going to ask the user something. And we're going to go through an array. So let's see here. This gets a little complicated here, but
What's the type role list? The type?
Do you see a typo?
No, type.
No, raw
104
list.
type role
Oh,
list.
raw list. Yeah, raw list is just JSON.
Oh.
And so the reason that we use, it's good. I'm glad you pointed that out. So raw list will just return the JSON to you, and then you can treat it like JSON. So you can cycle through it. You can take the keys and get the values and etc. And so that's what we're going to do here is we're going to run a function, and it's going to cycle through. You know, it has a for loop, and then we're calling a variable called choices array, and we're going to populate that array with results. And remember, results comes from right here. A lot of times I'll just call it res, R-E-S. But in this case, I called it results for some reason. So it's the same thing. You can call it Mickey Mouse. And then we're getting the item names, right? So we did this earlier tonight. We cycled through all the objects, and we grabbed all of like their genres in the favorite albums exercise. Remember that? So here it's, but in this case, we're going to push these item names into this array. So by the time this for loop is done, this array is going to have all the names of the items for auction. And then we just return that array of strings that, you know, that are the names of the items for auction. So I know that was like that, you know what, now I think about it, that was probably the most complicated part of the whole assignment. That little like string of logic. And then we message, you know, which item you want to beat or do you want to bid on? And then of course we go back to something more simple. You know, what would you like to bid? It's just an input. So they can just input a number.
Wait, Peter, so does it return JSON or string? Because it said it returns.
This will return an array of strings.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
And it has to be an array because we set it up like this. So in advance, and that's a good question. If we had not done this, if we had just done this, it would just return one string, everything stuck together, all the words together. So mine would say guitar's ninja sword, like one word, actually with a space between ninja and sword. But because we did that, it knows it's expecting an array. So it'll start pushing them in like items on an array.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a good question. Yeah, that's a little detail that makes a big difference. And then this is just a string. Actually, in this one, I just realized I did not bother making sure that it was a number. So you could actually put a word in there and it would still work. Not supposed to. Then let's see. What part was this? Oh yeah, we were choosing what to bid on, right? Oh, that's right. Okay, and then we have the callback answer. We create a variable just like up here, right? We've just declared a variable with no value, except this time we didn't say it's an array. We just said it's a whatever. We for loop through the results, and then if the result dot item name is answer dot choice. So first we're delivering them like an array of oh, you know what? Chosen item result I, because I have to think about this for a second.
You're just setting the chosen item equal to that result name.
If the item name though is exactly equal to answer.choice. Oh, okay. So it's making sure that answer.choice, so the one they chose, is exactly the same as item name. Yeah, but of course it would be. Didn't we already present the option? Yeah, we said how much. I kind of got I got lost in my own code. Hold on. Has anybody ever seen that meme that has a developer like? Go ahead.
I was going to say it's more of you're basically just double checking that the user entering an item like into the text is something that exists in the bid listing.
That's how it comes off to me too. But now I'm thinking, well, I feel like we presented them the items and we asked, okay, they like type 1, 2, 3, or 4, or however many items you have in there. Like, why do we need to double check it? Because
you didn't validate it in the
there's a funny
require.
meme. That's a good point, but that was an accident. So that's not the reason. I didn't catch that mistake. But there's a funny meme that shows a developer like this, and it says, when I first wrote this code, only God and I knew what it did. Now only God knows. So I'm having one of those moments at the moment. It'll probably be apparent if we just move on. It will go, oh, that's what that was about. So we'll come back to that. I think I was trying to validate something there. So now we're checking the bid. So we check chosen item dot highest bid, right? So we're getting that value out of that SQL return. And then we're saying parse integer. Anybody remember what that does?
Yeah, like it takes
Does
the
it turn
number out of the string.
Yeah, exactly. It does exactly that. And then we're going to do another connection.query. So if it's larger than the highest bid, right, then we're going to throw it into the database. Connection, query, update, set, then we have a couple variables where set blank, where blank. Set what? Well, we're going to set the highest bid as answer.bid. Where? Well, it's going to be the ID of the chosen item, right? Does that make sense? And I know you're thinking, I see the logical people going like, well, what's the logic behind that? It's syntax. It's just the way that MySQL works, right? And then error, copy paste error stuff, throw the error, console log, oh, you did it successfully. And then we start it again. There is an else because because we said up here, where'd it go? If the chosen bid, or the highest bid is smaller than the answer bid, then we run that code. Else, we just tell them, we just console log, your bid was too low, try again, and then we start the game over. And that's it. Still don't know what that chunk of code was there. Well, I guess I know what I'm doing until late tonight, trying to figure out what I wrote this here.
Hey, Peter, for the homework for this week, is raw list going to be essential to complete that?
Let me think about that. Where's Brian? Brian, I need you. Oh, you're there. I was joking. Hey,
I don't think we have inquiry or prompts in the note taker, right? You were talking about note taker?
I'm talking about week 12 homework.
That one. Ooh, I don't know that.
Week 12. I don't think I introduced that one yet.
I just like to take note when we're going through these activities, what might be helpful for reviewing in preparation for the homework.
Can anybody remind me which one that is? Okay, it's not note taker. It's the one after that. Which one was that?
Isn't due tomorrow? Don't do tomorrow.
Note taker's due tomorrow, right?
No, it's due Saturday. Yeah.
Due Saturday.
Oh, it's due.
You gonna scared me?
An employee tracker.
Saturday.
I'm just thinking ahead. If like sometimes I feel like you guys will point out something that's like you just like kind of mention it, and then it ends up being important to.
Oh, is it employee tracker?
Yeah,
I think that's what she's looking at.
Oh, okay. I believe you will need it.
Yeah, you'll be needing to learn definitely writing queries, SQL queries, establishing connection to MySQL, also needing to, let's see, join tables. So you'll have more than one tables. Let's see, what else? Yeah, I mean, and then also, yeah, that's pretty much it. You'll be using Inquire to ask the questions, and based on the questions, you'll query, show data, and then make a video. Yeah.
A question, Peter, but instead of putting it like instead of putting an if and else statement like on the bottom, could you just have the use the validate function in inquire to check if, well, it's just another if statement in there, but you just move it to the validate section so it doesn't just exit out of the function, I guess, if that makes any sense.
What line are you looking at?
You know how near the end you were checking if the high high bid that you entered was higher than the highest bid.
Right.
You could just chuck that into the validate section of Inquirer instead, right?
What section are you talking about there?
The you know how Inquirer has validate?
Like the method in Inquirer?
The method, yeah.
So Sean, that may work. However, you should also consider separation of concern. Not always writing things like very short and concise is always the most favored way. There are times when you want that, but sometimes you also want to consider separation of concern and also readability. So.
Well, it's more of because you could directly have Inquirer just state, "Oh, please enter a bit higher than the," or that was my logic at least. So you don't have to, go out and then, restart.
Oh, okay. Yeah, in which case I think it could work. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh. Yeah. No, actually, that makes sense. That'd be a good way to do it. I'm actually trying to see if it'll work now.
Night, everyone.
Good night. Yeah, I should also go. I need to drive down to San Diego, then back up again tomorrow.
I think your way is probably better, dude. Yeah, just FYI. I'm not done. I'm not done typing it up and testing it, but it seems like it probably is fewer lines, so less faster processing. So,
Brian, I did want to ask. Sorry, this is going over a little more, but what did you mean by separation of concerns, though?
I don't think we have time to explain, but I'll send you an article. It's just like understanding. It's more of a computer science thing, understanding, efficient computer architecture, design patterns. So yeah, here. Here's a basic intro. I just Googled it.
Okay, so it's actually just called separation of concern then?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll read it.
Hey, Peter.
Probably after tomorrow then. Thank you.
Just a quick
Brian.
question. Sorry.
Hey, Rita.
Hey, so this is just regarding the ideas, because I always have a hard time. It's like I understand when you're going through it, I understand everything. I understand where we're going, what the function is. I think I have a hard time actually creating the solution, and I think that's just something that I'm realizing more and more as I go through the classes. So what are some type of tips that you give me, or at least that I can start studying, I guess, to understand?
Totally.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, practicing. Okay. This boot camp is this format is so intensive that there's no way you can master all this stuff in this period of time. Mm-hmm. It's you get acquainted and really it would be an unrealistic expectation to put on yourself, but the important thing is you get acquainted with it all, because I just know, and I've seen in the past, many of my students, they just go in all sorts of different directions, so it's you might become find a job doing back end. You might find somebody else with UI, somebody with tech support, somebody with, all sorts of front end and design. So as long as you're acquainted with it all and you feel comfortable with it, then you're at a huge advantage. That's what this course you should get out of it. You should feel oh yeah, I kind of know, even if you don't recall the syntax off the top of your head,
right?
It will only take a little Googling before you oh yeah, that's right, I remember how this works. But you get more and more and more comfortable with things, and not just in class, but just in life, with just dealing with it, using just like any tool or any technique. You just have to, mainly you have to run into problems and solve them, figure out how to solve them. That's what I find is the biggest teacher.
Right. And so how do you get out of the discouragement when you're like, oh my gosh, I can't get this to work?
Make getting it to work. Usually.
Yeah, I guess. Just
I
keep
think
doing
I find
research and
hugely.
Google. Yeah, that makes sense.
So
Yeah.
if we